makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part.
Tucker Carlson is by far the most important right-wing pundit in the US right now, and he recently hosted none other than Nigel Farage, one of the horsemen of Brexit, former leader of the UKIP party in Britain, and a bona fide fascist. But they had a conversation that sounded more like a tabloid gossip column, but it was really funny because of some of the things Tucker said about what COVID does to a man. So let's watch.
Leadership quality.
Yes.
We're going to go and climb that hill. And here's why we want to do it. And we invite you, the public, to come with us on that journey.
Amen.
That is leadership. And Boris, just with the best will in the world, doesn't have that. And we've seen more U-turns in policy from a Johnson government than I've seen in any government in my lifetime.
Yes.
I hate to say this, but because it would mean that I agree with anything that Nigel Farage says, but actually everything he's saying about Boris Johnson is true. So this is a rare case of me agreeing with Nigel Farage. Obviously, it's a critique that doesn't come from the right place, but still, it is true. He's a disaster of a prime minister. Complete incompetent, and the U-turns that the government has done over and over and over on almost every single major policy is just absolutely shameful.
And
in a very embarrassing way.
Oh, some of it's been shocking.
So somebody who knows him told me, and I should be interested in getting your take on this, that getting COVID emasculated him. It changed him. It feminized him. It weakened him as a man. Do you think that's...
Well, I think he was very seriously ill.
Oh, for sure he was.
And I think... one of the things we have learned from COVID is people who are 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds overweight.
I just love that. First, it's how incompetent he is, but also he's really, really, really fat. And he just like raises the number. Oh my God, this is so funny. This is so funny.
Tend to have fared very badly.
Sure.
Now, we don't talk about it
But
much.
the virus itself, this is true, does tend to take away the life force in some people, I notice. I mean, it does feminize people. No one ever says that, but it's true.
No one ever says that, but according to him, just everyone thinks it. And it's true, despite the fact that he has no data or no other objective measure of whether this statement is true. This is just very, very weird science, I must say.
Look, I think the virus did affect him, but I think, let's be honest about it, it's the new wife, isn't it? I mean, it's, Carrie Johnson, or as she's now called, Carrie Antoinette, which the historians like. This is a very powerful, very strong woman.
What wife is this, do we know? Or do we even keep count?
Well, that's not the...
I love how this just ended in, like I said, just tabloid gossip. But let's deconstruct this statement that COVID feminizes you. So it is true that COVID is a debilitating disease. If you are in the hospital receiving oxygen or on a ventilator, it is probably very likely that you will not be able to go outside and chop lumber shirtless in the middle of winter, which is what real men do, like Tucker Carlson, clearly in his man cave of a log cabin studio. That is the case for COVID, and I would say almost every other disease that debilitates the human body. You can't do the manly things you were used to doing before that. It is also the case of long COVID, which in many people creates certain chronic conditions like chronic fatigue. So I know I have friends who have suffered from long COVID. Some of them tell me like, yeah, there's some days that you just don't want to get out of bed, which clearly means you can't go out fishing with your man friends and then have a barbecue. Always wearing flannel shirts and big beards. So you can't do that when you have long COVID, or much less when you have actual COVID. But this idea that it feminizes you. Now, clearly, he refers to this as a bad thing, obviously, because it's part of the narrative that he pushes. Tucker Carlson's fundamental narrative, among many other aspects of his narrative, is that weakness and femininity are bad things. And these are not qualities that any self-respected man should have. Remember his segment that he did about the US military becoming feminine and soft. All the time, China's military becomes manlier and manlier. This is part of a traditional conservative narrative of, masculinity being, the traits behind masculinity are the traits that are most desirable in people, in leaders, in businessmen, etc. And really, it's only, the women who adopt these masculine traits are the only ones who succeed. And capitalism kind of pushes women into that direction, which is really unfortunate. So this is consistent with that view, but it is unfortunately inconsistent with many of the other things that Tucker Carlson advocates for, because Tucker Carlson has been fundamentally anti-mask, he's been anti-lockdowns, he's been anti-vaccines, and he's been anti-mandates of any kind. So ironically, he's saying that it's a bad thing to get COVID because it's going to feminize you. But at the same time, he's against every single policy that could prevent you from catching COVID. So this is really hard to reconcile, not that his right-wing audience and an increasingly dumb left-wing audience as well will have any issue whatsoever reconciling. But the fact is, from a purely argumentative standpoint, this makes no fucking sense. You can't say that catching COVID brings bad things to you, like becoming more feminine, while simultaneously you should all just catch it. Let's not be afraid of the virus. Natural immunity is a good thing. All these things that conservatives and, like I said, increasingly some leftists promote. This does not make any sense whatsoever. But I don't think his audience will really care about these contradictions in any way. But it's a narrative that I'm sure that you're going to start hearing more often, because I'm sure this is something that no one thought about until Tucker Carlson mentioned it. And now that he's mentioned it, given that he is kind of the epicenter of the populist right punditry in the US, I figured this is going to be a narrative you're going to start hearing very, very soon across this entire ecosystem, that COVID feminizes you. But yeah, it always starts with Tucker. Tucker is like the baseline, the epicenter of the tremors that eventually spread across the country. But it's just still ridiculous. It's still absolutely ridiculous. There is no way anyone in their right minds could possibly believe that COVID feminizes you, especially like on a permanent basis. And like I said earlier, if you look at Boris Johnson's behavior, his personality, his style of leadership, his type of policy making before he caught COVID and after he caught COVID, it's exactly the same. There was a lot of talk at the time that COVID might humanize him a bit, because he is a complete utter sociopath, like clinical narcissist, malignant. He's basically the British Trump. And there was some talk by people who are, I guess, pathologically generous to right-wingers, who were saying that COVID is gonna make him more human. It didn't. It absolutely didn't. And if you follow British news right now, there is a scandal that there was a party held in December 2020 at no less than number 10 Downing Street, which is his official residence. A party was held. A Christmas party was held, despite the fact that the country was in lockdown, despite the fact that people were dying in hospitals and people were prevented from seeing their loved ones die in hospitals and saying their goodbye or even touching them. While this malignant buffoon was having a party, or his lackeys were having a party. We still don't know if he was there or not. But this is just absolutely abhorrent behavior by the Tories. And yeah, that happened after he got COVID. So nothing changed. Nothing absolutely changed. So yeah, I'm really sorry for everyone who caught COVID and now can't ride horseback shirtless like Putin does, go fishing afterwards and do all these manly things, which I'm sure Tucker Carlson doesn't do. Doesn't do. This is like the most urbane cosmopolitan dipshit on the planet who just pretends to act like this hyper masculine working class hero, which he's not. He is not. But yeah, just don't buy this. But on that note, if you like this video, please like, please share. Most importantly, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.